Welcome to Settle In, the show where we go inside the minds of people that are redefining the future payments. Our tagline says it best: settle in because the future payment does not wait. And this show is about having really candid conversation with people that are on the ground, building new products in payments. The operators, the bankers, the entrepreneurs, the people that are actually doing this day in, day out to be able to redefine how global money moves. So this is not about sales pitch, PowerPoint presentation, which I hate, or even hype. This is much more about candid conversation, one-on-one with our guests that have been out there building payment products across different regions. So my name is Wesley Rios. I am the partnership lead for the US and Latin America. I've been in payments for over 20 years, working with companies like MasterCard, JP Morgan, and Citi. And I've seen a lot of different payment products across different geographies. And I can say one thing: one size does not fit all in payments. And today, I have the pleasure of having an ex-colleague of mine that I worked with him back in the days when I was at MasterCard out of Miami, overseeing the Latin America region. Breno Andrade has many years in payments, similar to me, but he also had the opportunity to work across both of the major networks, not just MasterCard, but also Visa. In the last 8 years, he was part of the Visa team that built the Visa Direct business. So tons of experience in payments and a lot of things that we can learn from it. Breno, how are you?
Good. Thank you, Wesley, for the introduction. It's great to have this opportunity to be chatting here with you. We know each other for more than a decade. We have a lot of experience on Latin America and payments, particularly. And over these decades, a lot have changed, and we were witnesses to see, how all this ecosystem has evolved and continue evolving. And I'm very glad to be here with you today to have this chat and to discuss about payments, not only across the region, but also Asia and in the world. Thank you for the opportunity.
And one of the key things, Breno, and I remember the days when you were part of the marketing team at MasterCard, and we were there in Breno office. And we always had this question, at least for the North America team, that thought that Latin America was just one region, everything was the same, right? And it's not, right? Brazil is so different than it is Mexico, that is so different than it is Colombia. And one of the key things that I want to share with our Asia audience is that we hear you. Asia is not the same either. People might assume that every market is quite similar, but it is not. And I guess one of the key things is, as you build the business across Latin America, how do you deal with this complexity? And that's one of the things that I wanted to learn from you, your experience. But before we go into the solution, what I want to understand is, what is the problem, right? You build this Visa Direct. One, explain what Visa Direct is, so everyone really understands what it is. And what is the problem that it's trying to solve?
Yes, and you point out something that I have to deal for at least 2 decades, because I have been in regional positions since 2005. I have been working with Latin America, and for those that are not very familiar with, they see Latin America as an entity. It's Latin America as one big single region that operates pretty much the same. But the reality is not, as you just point out. It's a combination of more than 40 countries across the region, each one with your own ecosystem, with your own regulators, with your own consumer habits, different ecosystem and technologies that each one of these markets have. Some are very advanced, others are still in the early stage. So there is a lot of differences across the region, and also similarities. When you think about Latin America, one of the good things, and I would say different than Asia, is how many languages you have to deal with, because pretty much we have Spanish, Portuguese, English, and some specific countries in the Caribbean that may talk in French, in German, you name it. But pretty much we are talking about three languages. But other than that similarity, we do have the culture, Latin culture, pretty much across the region. But on the payment system, it's completely different. It's a totally fragmented ecosystem as a region, with each country having their own. And what are the main challenge that I have to deal with over all these years? Regulations. So each one of these markets have a different type of regulation governing payments. Some are very advanced. I would name, for example, Brazil, where you and I are from. It's a very advanced country, and particularly as the remain of the decades ago, when Brazil was living the hyperinflation and banks had to be very, very efficient in terms of processing transactions because of these forces of the inflation putting the pressure, for them to be efficient. So this is one example of a country that outstands out there. We have countries that are very conservative, like Chile. I would say it's one country that it's very stringent with the regulation, very conservative in a way, but well advanced in faster payments as well. Mexico, that actually was the first country in the world that having a real-time payment ecosystem in country with SPAY. That's from
true.
early 2000s. That first real-time payment was implemented.
Before real-time payment was a thing, right? Before real-time payment was a thing.
So it was pioneer, on that. And I'm not going to talk about all, but just each one has its own particularity. So deal with the regulators is something that is very specific on each country. The technology that each one has, the concentration in banks. There are markets, for example, that are much more fragmented than others. You take Panama, for example, is a country that has a lot of banks. There is no big concentration in a field. We have other countries that are much more concentrated, even Brazil or Mexico, Peru, that they have a very concentration in big incumbent banks, that now are being disrupted by the new banks and digital banks, and is forcing all the ecosystem to modernize and to change. But despite of the technology and the the regulation, there is also consumer behavior. We have countries that are very different in terms of consumer adoption of how they pay. We have countries that are very cash driven still, whereas we have others that are converging for digital payments much faster and adopting that. And incredibly, I just mentioned Mexico, for example, that is a country that started with the real-time payments, pioneer on real-time payment, but it's still in the region is one of the largest cash users in the market. Sure. Why did that happen? Consumer behavior and also usability. So one of the key challenges and one of the key triggers for consumer adoption is how easy it is to use the payment. Yes. Consumers, they do not think about which rail they are going to use, which payment. They just want these payments to be frictionless and happen and trust. So when we work with multiple countries, like in the region, this is a very important thing to take into consideration as well. There is the consumer adoption. Each country has a different adoption, and we should always prioritize the consumer experience over which rail you are doing, which technology we are using. At the end of the day, it's the consumer adoption that is going to drive the success of whatever you
No,
are implementing.
I agree 100%. You know, I don't think any consumer wakes up in the morning and say, today I'm going to pay with my platinum card, or I'm going to pay with my stablecoin card. They don't think about that, right? They want the convenience, the ease of paying, and that's the experience. And that's why technology to drive adoption, it needs to become invisible in the back end, right? And I know that, you know, with your Visa Direct, tell us what it is, and what were the use cases that you were going after, right? To be able to bring this unique experience, and how did you do that, dealing with all this complexity across a different region, across a different market, across in Latin America?
Yes, I had a great time at Visa, helping to build Visa Direct, and it's fascinating how that innovation came in a traditional card payment network. Also,
True.
over the most time of the existence of the company, they were serving one use case that is the payment. And the payment on consumer to business. No? And in a traditional consumer to business transaction, you need speed and you know, frictionless experience. You need to have dispute resolution type of mechanisms, you know, to resolve this potential returns or fraud or whatever you name it, no situation that we need to interfere. And a large network was built over decades to serve that need. No, a state-of-the-art network that is amazing. How the company Visa, Mastercard built, you know, this large networks, global networks, but the same way that the network could be used for a consumer to business transaction, it had sometimes to using the reversal order. So when the consumer would have to receive a credit, would have to receive a payment either for a reversal of a transaction, or you know, a situation when a fraud occurred, they have to be reimbursed. Some situation. So the network was capable of doing that, but had never been proactively used in the reversal order. So one of the key insights and innovations that happened was to maximize and to use that network in the reversal order, so the card holders can receive a payment through their card credentials. And that's when it started. And over time it evolved, because then it evolved from being this network on the card credentials network.
Yes.
Then through several acquisitions and in-house developments, so the platform has evolved to also be able to do account-to-account transfer that has nothing to do with the card payments. And you know, today it's a major global payment infrastructure and ecosystem for money movement.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I remember the very beginning, because MasterCard had a similar product called Money Send, which basically was pushed to card, right? So it was a clever way of using the existing network, where today you use your card to pay a business, and you actually go there to the POS, swipe your card, and you make the payment. But that goes from the consumer credential to the business. And I guess it was a sort of like a wake-up moment, say, hey, maybe we can use this in a reverse direction, use the same network, and allow business to pay consumers. And in I don't know, back in the days, and maybe you have many different use cases, but I remember they were like, oh, how does Uber uses this sort of push-to-card payment to actually pay drivers at real time, right? Instead of having to wait for like every 2 weeks to pay drivers. So those are, that just really opened up a bunch of new use cases that the network could actually address. And at Visa Direct, I think you guys even took it to the next level, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because then there are such a number of credentials worldwide. There is no 100% market share worldwide. So the next level was, how the company could expand beyond the traditional card network, and then through some acquisitions and in-house development, developed the capability to also send account to account. So yes, it's a great case of innovation, and continues evolving as the whole global ecosystem, new companies coming into this money movement world, bringing innovative now all the digital coins, stable coins, all the crypto.
Yes.
So completely disrupting this ecosystem. And why? Because there is a need.
Right.
This type of payments, particularly the cross-border, has always been very fragmented.
Yes.
It's not transparent.
Right.
A lot
True.
of
That's
hops into the payment, slow,
right.
unpredictable. So
Right.
of course, there is a huge opportunity to make these payments much more efficient as it's happening. Still, there is a long, way to go, but already a lot of improvement has happened. You can see, particularly in the most developed corridors,
Right.
is more advanced, but still, there are the non-traditional exotic corridors are the ones that are suffering still the most in terms of speed, predictability, cost, so user experience. There is a lot of things to improve still.
And I think you're right. I think that the business need is there, right? And I think that a company, they're doing business cross-border, having to deal with the complexity of cross-border payment using the traditional correspondent banking network is a nightmare, right? And the next evolution of this is not only does it take a long time, anywhere from 3 to 5 days, it costs a lot of money, and you don't have a lot of transparency because you have to go through many different hops. I joke that it feels like it's a relay race in the dark. As soon as the company puts in the payment order, it just waits to see when it's going to get on the other side, right? And that is very surprising that that's the way that things happen today, in a way that we have instant digital experience available all the time. But one thing that I always tell everyone is that payment is not just like a transaction. No? It's not just moving data from point A to point B. There is a lot more that happens when you actually make a payment product. Because with the payment, you have a relationship and you have expectation and responsibility. So in your case, you mentioned, the corridors in Latin America. For your cross-border corridors, what were the corridors that you saw the most activity and the most need for innovation happening in Latin America?
So it's important to separate, because then even when we talk about all this cross-border and corridors, depends on which type of use case you are talking. No,
right.
Let's talk about remittances, because remittances were key Latin America, as in Asia as well. One of the key use cases, and one of the key the key segments where this money flows cross-border. And we think about Latin America. Latin America is primarily a receiving region of remittances.
Right.
Because Latin America exports migrants to other countries that much more than receives migrants from other countries. And by far, the largest sender to Latin America is US. And depends on the country, the dependence on United States is even higher. We have a situations, for example, in countries like Mexico, that 96, 98% of the inflows are coming from United States.
Wow.
We have other countries that are more diverse, you know, so we have particular corridors. Spain is very relevant for some countries like Ecuador, like Colombia as well. So it's the second largest sender to Latin America. And also what is interesting to see is the intra-regional corridors. We have some specific corridors like Costa Rica to Nicaragua, for example. That is an important intra-regional flow. We have Colombia, Venezuela, one big flow. We have Haiti with Chile, Brazil. It's good. Brazil, Bolivia. Some migrants that happen inside the region, but the vast majority is coming from US. No, so this corridor naturally is more developed because it's where the biggest opportunity is where most of the initial incumbents on the remittances started operating. So we still have a lot of opportunity to improve, but it is one of the most advanced. No, and for flows outgoing from Latin America into other countries, also we do have US as one of the key destinations, and also come again to Europe. We have Spain, one of the key destinations from Latin America, but we also have some Africa corridors that are interesting from money's outflow from Latin America. When you go into the trade, and then the trade is a different environment. Here we're talking about imports and exports, and pretty much across the region, the balance is more or less the same in terms of exports and exports, which gives a huge opportunity to improve these trade flows, either through local collections for the exporters from Latin America, and a lot of on the agribusiness, that let's say is exporting to Asia, soybeans from Brazil.
Right. Yeah.
And one of the trends now is how to collect these funds in Asia, like local. So this is one of the key trends, also happening now. So the corridors on the trades are pretty much concentrated in US, China, some Europe countries like Germany, Italy, Spain again, a lot of Korea is another important trade corridor for that. So different use case. Here we're talking about large tickets. We're talking about speed. Sometimes is not the main driver.
Interesting.
In a remittances, speed is typically the main driver. People need to know that the parent, the family member is receiving that money. Sometimes they are in necessity, that they really need to get the money fast. On the trade payments, the predictability and the cost have much more weight as they speed, because typically they are more predictable payments that are scheduled more in advance. So here is where stable coins make a big difference, because instant settlement and to have the ability to have a 24/7 settlement in a big transaction like this on the trade are more valuable. And a big disruption is happening right now with these payments.
And then on that point, then because the predictability and the costs are the key driver, and I guess blockchain becomes a natural fit for that, because it doesn't go into this sort of black box, which is the correspondent banking, right, with many different hubs, right? Where from Latin America, where are you seeing this business looking to adopt blockchain and stablecoin as a way of payment? Is there one market that is getting more traction than the other, or you seen that across the whole region at the same time?
Yeah, I've seen some interesting things. No, there are markets where the volatility of FX, high inflation, drove the use of blockchain technology and crypto, not necessarily the stable coins, but also any cryptocurrency, to be used as a way to protect the value of the currency. And I can say that Argentina and Bolivia, for example, are two countries where the adoption for consumers were very, very high on that.
Interesting.
When you're talking about blockchain for B2B, I see that Brazil is more advanced. There was a big convergence in Brazil and migration into blockchain stablecoins transactions on the B2B side. So pretty much, importers from Brazil having to pay their bills and using, stable coins for that payment. So I would say these countries are the ones that are standing out. But across the region, as I speak, behaviors are changing fast, and the adoption is growing very fast.
Yeah, it seems that it's a combination of factor, right? Behavior, business need, regulation, all those things are sort of coming together at the same time that is really driving everyone to sort of take a good look at this and see how we can actually help them drive their business. I know that we're coming up close to the end of our conversation, but what I wanted to, like, for our audience in Asia, right? What will be the key learnings from your experience operating in Latin America that you would like to share with them, right? From the complexity of actually building a payment business across a diverse region that it is Latin America.
Yeah. I would say a couple. No, focus on interoperability first, because creating closed loop ecosystem has been proven to over time fail. Because at the end of the day is what we said, consumers and customers, they're not thinking about payment. They just want this to happen to wherever they have to send the money. So if they are locked in a closed loop and the destination is not in this closed loop, we are doing a disservice for our consumers. So think about interoperability. Is this reachable? Is reaching the most as we can? Is interoperable with all the other ecosystems that are built elsewhere?
Very good point.
This is one. always think about consumer experience over
Mm-hmm.
rails. You know,
Right.
so this is it's key. Sometimes when we are developing our solutions, we are too much thinking about the tech stack
Yes.
instead of, wait a second,
Right.
do is this easy to use? Is this what consumers are gonna adopt because it's intuitive, is frictionless. So
Right.
put that consumer first before you develop something. And then I would say another key learning, it's it's not about the technology, the biggest challenge. It's about how to align all stakeholders.
That's a
The
really good one.
alignment of the stakeholders, it's way more complex than the technology per se.
Right. Right. Right.
So are all participants on this talking the same language? Are all with the same objective? Are all with the same vision? Because if each one has their own interests separated from the collective, it's going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
align the stakeholders beforehand and make sure that this is a win-win for all participants
Yeah, and
on this.
that's really good point. Interoperability, consumer experience, and stakeholder alignment. I mean, those are the key pillars for any sort of successful payment product. Breno, we're coming to the end of the conversation. I could talk with you for the longest time, but we have to bring it to a closure. Before we go, I wanted to, what is next? You have built this great business at Visa. Now you're looking for the next chapter where, and working with business to be able to advise and help them grow their business in payments. What are you thinking about? What's next?
I think, well, next I see this is a convergence of payments. It's
Yeah,
not one or the other, it's how
right,
everything is going to come together. There's going to be space for traditional payment rail. There's going to be space for crypto, digital assets transactions. That's going to be a space, for all the tokenized assets. Is the convergence. So I see more and more this getting. For this reason, I go back to my interoperability point, because
yes,
it's key that all this talks together, because it's
right,
not a dominance of one and the others are going to cease to exist, at least not in the short to medium term. No.
right, right,
So
right.
I personally stepped out, of Visa recently. I'm fascinated with the payments and where I spent the last 30 years of my career. I'm going to continue doing that. So I'm always also open to help companies that are wanting to be competitive in this environment with my expertise and knowledge. So for me personally, what's next is continue supporting the payments ecosystem and make payments better for everyone.
Good,
This
good.
includes the consumer, the companies as well,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
countries, all the ecosystem.
Sounds good, Breno. Listen, buddy, it's such great to hear from you. I cherish the time that we worked together. We went through a lot of learnings. Um, Everyone, if this show made you think about payments in a different way, this was the whole point of this conversation. A very candid, open conversation with operators, and that's what we want to do. This is Settle In, because the future of payment does not. Look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.